And that's why Muhammad Ali, he famously said that this world is a temporal place, and your kindness to other people is the rent that you pay for the space you were given. So the kindness you do to others is the rent that you pay for the space that you've been given. And then Allah decided that there would be a number of prophets who would come remind these people about their purpose. So Allah sent Adam alayhi salam, and he sent Nuh alayhi salam, and he sent Ibrahim, and Musa, Isa, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then after he sent the final prophet, the final message, Allah wanted that that message would continue as it is wherever people are in the world. So since the revelation of Quran, every single person, every corner of the world is asked by Allah to follow that message. Everyone. Your next door neighbor, your teacher at school, your friends at school, every single person you meet and see is asked or required by Allah to follow that message. Now, how many of the people you know follow Islam? Would you say that 50% of the people you know follow Islam? Would you say 20% of the people you know follow Islam? 20%? Who would say that 5% of the people they know follow Islam? Okay. Who would say that 1% of the people they know follow Islam? Okay, who would say more than 50? More than 50 of the people you know. So all your school friends, all the people in every other year in your school that you've ever met, all the people that you've ever sat with, studied with, played with, all the people you played Xbox with and you were on Xbox Live or PlayStation Live, all those people, 50% of all of them that you ever met follow Islam. Okay? Okay. So that means that there's 50% of those people who don't follow Islam. So 50% of those people, and you're all quite young, so I'd assume that you've probably met a few thousand people by now? Yeah? You must have at least met a few thousand people, the shopkeeper, the person you buy your sweets from, the person who you bought your first bike from, all of that stuff. So therefore the first three things you're going to tell to someone, that person who doesn't know anything about Islam, you have to tell to that 50% of people. The second one was the person who knows something about Islam but doesn't follow it. Right? So how many people do you know, or you've ever spoken to, knew something about Islam? Even if it's just the fact that there's a Quran, you have a Prophet called Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you have a Lord called Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, all the people you've met, they all knew that. So were they all Muslim? No. But they knew those three things. Okay, so those three, that group of people, you have to then tell them about the third group of things. Now, how many of you have met someone who was a Muslim, but they found it difficult to follow Islam? Who's met someone like that? Okay, who's met 10 people like that? Who's met 50 people like that? Who knows 100 people like that? Okay, so that group of people are therefore the group that you need to do the third set of things with. Now the last set, which was those people who are Muslim, or your relatives, people close to you, but they find that, you know, what you decide to do is not the best thing, or they try and deter you from it. Who knows one person like that? Who knows someone who's come to them, or they've said something to them that deterred them away from practicing Islam? You've never met anybody, okay? Nobody ever told you that you shouldn't go to mosques. Nobody ever told you that you shouldn't wear a hat?
No.
Has nobody ever told you not to keep a bed? Honestly? Anyone ever told you not to wear a headscarf? Your sister? Okay. So those people are therefore the ones who are close to you. And therefore the only way that you're going to be able to change that is if you do something nice to them. Yeah? And then the final thing that we spoke about was that you convey to someone or help them really believe that at the end of the day, whatever they do in that entire life, they'll be held accountable for. Either they'll be rewarded or there'll be a form of punishment. So that's the last thing. So the Prophet ﷺ, he brought all these three things together in one beautiful hadith. He said, اتق الله حيثما كنت وأتبع السيئة الحسنة تمحها وخالق الناس بخلق حسن. He said, be aware of Allah wherever you are. So whether you're in school, you're at home, you're in the masjid, you're out shopping, you're playing football, you're cycling, you're getting your haircut, whatever you're doing, be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that moment. Meaning that be aware that you're being held responsible for whatever you do, for wherever you look, whatever you think, whatever you say. And the second one is if you ever did something wrong, you answered back to your parents, you got angry with someone, you swore at someone, you treated them badly, you hurt someone, then for those things, then whenever you did something wrong, then do something good. Either do something good back to that person or do something good in general. So go praise Allah, give them a gift, be kind to them, help them out, wash their car, do whatever. And the last thing that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وَخَالِقِ النَّاسَ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ, that behave with every single person with best of character. And you define for yourselves in the last one what good character is. So each of you know what that is. So the Prophet ﷺ asked that every single person, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim, that you must behave well with them. It means you can't shout at them, you can't swear in front of them, you can't treat them badly, you can't wish bad for them, you can't do something that will work to their, work for them to be harmed later on. You're not allowed to do any of that. You can't cheat, you can't be deceptive, you can't do anything that would be considered by everyone else to be bad character, least of all by the Muslims. And he gave that advice to two of his companions. He gave it to Moulavi ibn Jabal and Abu Dhar. Now Moulavi ibn Jabal, he was the scholar amongst the Sahaba. Amongst the Sahaba, there were people who were specialists in the words of the Prophet, what we call hadith. There were people who were specialists in knowing how to judge amongst people. He had companions who were specialists about the inheritance that's to be given out. He had people who were the best in their dealing with their parents, who were known for that. And Moulavi ibn Jabal, he was known as a scholar amongst the Sahaba. So you can imagine how knowledgeable he is. So as he's being asked to go to Yemen and call the people of Yemen to Islam, he's asked, what's the first thing that you will call them to? He said, I will call them to worship Allah and to follow the Prophet. Then he said, what will you ask them to do? He said, I will call them to follow and read the Quran. He said, then what's the last thing that you call them to? I said that I call them to follow and obey the commands of the Prophet. He said, what if something happens and you don't find the answer from these two sources? You don't find it in the Quran, you don't find it in what I told you. He said, then I'll try my best to reconcile between them and then give the best advice. So every single person, each of us in this room, has access to two things that very, very few people in this world, less than 50% of the people you know, have access to. Each of you can read the Quran, you have access to the English, you can understand what it means. Each of you has access to the books of the words of the Prophet ﷺ. You can go back to your mosque or to your home and you have a copy of Sahih Bukhari there, or the other books of Hadith, or Riyadh al-Salihin by Imam Nawawi. And you can get that book, you can read it. And then once you've read it, you should take whatever's in there and go and put it into practice with everyone else. So the first hadith you should definitely know is one I just told you. That wherever you are yourself, you improve yourself by being aware of Allah no matter what you're doing. The second thing you do individually is that if you did something wrong, you go and do something good. And the last thing that you do for everyone else is that you treat everyone in the best way. And all of that is what we've been talking about today. So the fact that you're Muslim and the fact that you're able to come here, I can tell you straight up that I never had a chance to have something like this. And when I was your age, we didn't have these kind of opportunities with, great uncles and brothers who arranged this. And I didn't have that chance to come and sit and have someone explain to me or talk to me about Islam, about different things about Islam. So I had to start my formal learning much later on. But all of you now, I can tell you that each of you has an opportunity to go far beyond whatever I've done and what other people have done. Because you have a good start, you have parents who care about you and who want the best for you. And if you were to go outside and you were to look around at everybody else, you'll find that by the time people reach 21, usually when they're finishing university, very few of them actually think, what am I going to do for my community afterwards? It's a case, I finish a job, I'll start working, I'll start a family, I'll get a house, I'll do this, I'll do that, and it becomes individual. But all of you here are from parents who care about the rest of the community. You see, your parent didn't call me and say, Bro Nasar, can you come to my house and teach my child? Your parent said, let's get everyone together, we'll get a place, and we'll go there. And that care for everyone is something that you should all take on as well. That the Muslim friends you have at university or otherwise may not have had that chance. So you should care for them as much as you care for yourself. That you want the best for them as you want the best for yourself. And by doing that, you'll be able to build a place around you where not 50% of people you know, 100% of the people you know and meet are all Muslim. So that's the challenge that you have. And, you know, I can tell you now, from your age onwards, you have so many things that you can do. And so much, you know, amazing things you can get involved in and learn. By being on radio, learning about videos and editing and making movies or whatever. You can do loads of stuff. And so I'd encourage you to get even something simple like a camera and start doing something and play around and see what you can do to help other people, to inspire other people, to encourage other people. So the last thing I want you to do, as I have to leave, is I want you to take your piece of paper and in your group's final thing, and you'll tell the uncles, is what the 3 of you or the 4 of you are going to do to help the rest of your community. That's it. Just one thing, not 3 things, just one thing. What are you going to do? No, not yourself, but what's one institution or what's one thing you're going to put together for everybody else. So, okay? And on that I leave. I say salam to you all. Salam. Wa sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum.